Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Morning if you're watching us live, and good afternoon, evening, 3 a.m. to whomever is watching us later on, right? Great to have you aboard. We're getting folks chiming in. We have Timothy with us. Tristan is joining us today. That's exciting. Mario, of course, Aaron is with us, and Aaron is totally seeing the future because he's like, I know how this rolls. He's now going to ask whether or not we can see and hear him. So he chimed right in. I can see and hear you. Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, right? Aaron's old hat at this by now. Hey, so gosh, it's no secret. I geek out with this stuff, right? I really enjoy this. We've been exploring the foundations, kind of the origins of business thought from the very beginning. And I think it's fair to say, I hope it's fair to say, that some things that seem really, really simple are in fact very sophisticated, such as a business transaction, even just a trade or borrowing is in fact a really, really sophisticated business transaction. And then things that we thought were uber modern and kind of, disruptive technologies and business practices like Amazon and so forth are like, hell, we've been doing that since the 14th century. That's not a big deal. And I find this hugely fascinating. Well, we are about to enter a new junction, one that really brings today into stark contrast. Now, or stark relief, I should say. What we're going to do today, and I'll go ahead and pull this up, we're going to explore the kind of the early religious attitudes toward business for a couple of reasons. Now, this is not a religion bashing moment. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're going to find today, hey, Jaime and Joseph, thanks for joining. One of the things we're going to find today is is it pointing that way? Yeah, it is. A lot of the attitudes that we see here, we hold, we share, we embrace. So we're not bashing anybody because if we did, we'd be bashing ourselves. Another reason we want to do this is we want to recognize that in the early days, religion ruled everything. It was the nexus. It was the center of all moral and ethical thought. Therefore, if you were going to go about a practice, such as a business practice, you really needed to make sure that your business practices lined up with the moral and ethical thoughts espoused by the prevailing religion of your area. So if your business practices are going against the prevailing religious attitudes of the area, you're in trouble. I mean, big trouble, right? So we're going to explore this today, but it's also a setup for next week. Oh my gosh, is it a setup for next week? Because while today we're going to look at all the reasons religion kind of went, I'm not too sure I like this business stuff, next week we're going to find out how the tables turned and how religion said, oh, we love this business stuff. This stuff is so good. Okay, so we want to set that up today. All right. Nabil is with us. Good night from here in Southeast Asia. There you go, right? So we have folks from all over the world. Thank you for joining. It's going to be great to have you along. Okay, so let's do this. All right. So now, one thing I'm going to ask you to do, hey, Jason, I'm going to ask you to put on your thinking cap because I'm about to explore four religious attitudes toward business, okay? And as we go through, of course, you're always welcome to chime in. And even, Tristan, Nabil, everybody is welcome to chime in, okay? And as a matter of fact, my students would probably love it if you did because they get points if you do. Gotta love it. I'm going to explore these. However, at the end of the exploration of these 4 attitudes, I'm going to ask you to give me an example of where you practice these attitudes. And trust me, you do. Okay? I do. We all do. All right. So with that setup, let's go ahead and get started. Now, one attitude that many religious traditions held toward business is what we would call the ascetic attitude. All right. And the ascetic attitude said that business is something that should be overcome, escaped from. It is unrighteous, it is immoral, it is something that should be totally avoided and held at arm's length because it is not a moral or ethical endeavor. So we want to have pretty much nothing to do with it. Now, granted, I have here a picture of the Amish. They do not have this attitude toward business. They're actually very, very savvy business people. They have this attitude toward technology, okay? So they're very, very productive. They are very, very successful. They are very, very keen business people, but they have an ascetic attitude toward technology, which is we're not going to have anything to do with it because technology takes away work, and work is moral and righteous and virtuous. And so why would we put in practice something that takes away something that's moral and virtuous and righteous? Okay? So that's the ascetic attitude toward business. Now, let me give you some examples of where we may, in fact, let's see, can we agree on a definition for business? Very good, Tristan. So, business is any time that we exchange goods and services with one another to meet a need, right? So, for example, if I need food and you need water and I have all kinds of water rights, but I have no food, you have all kinds of food, but you're lacking water rights, well, then I'll tell you what, I'll trade my water rights for your food, and that way we both benefit. So any exchange of goods and services to meet a need is what we would call business. Now, earlier in the lecture series, we find that that's actually pretty darn sophisticated stuff. I know. If I ever get this closed caption, they're going to hear sophisticated and go, what the heck is that? Sophisticated stuff. Okay, so thank you for that. So let's see how we practice an aesthetic attitude, okay? So here are some modern day examples. Were any of you homeschooled? Now, there's a certain ascetic attitude with this, which is we're not going to have anything to do with the public system. Now, by the way, I want to make it clear a lot of these overlap. So we could actually, in fact, use homeschooling as an example for an upcoming one. But homeschooling says we do not want to have anything to do with this system. We're going to do it ourselves. I know some people who do not shop at Walmart, which is a local store here in the United States, that because they do not agree with their business practices. So I'm going to boycott Walmart. If there's ever a store or a service or a company or an organization that you boycott, that's an ascetic attitude toward that. Do you allow internet in your home? Now, obviously, you use internet to some extent or another. You're watching this. But still, I know a lot of homes, especially early on, that said, we're not going to bring that into our home. We don't trust it, right? Or do you refuse to use products that have been tested on animals? So a lot of the ladies with us who use makeup, and actually a lot of the guys too, because I've actually had to use makeup for my videos because I'll get a blemish or a scar or something like that. So I use makeup as well. So open to everyone. Do you make sure that you use makeup that has not been tested on animals? Because that's an ascetic attitude toward businesses that practice animal testing. So you can see that the ascetic attitude is actually pretty common even today, even if it's not on religious grounds necessarily, but on other moral or ethical grounds that we hold. Hayden said, essentially going back to the first discussion when we talked about business transactions, totally, right? So our very first discussion where we talked about business transaction, that's what we use as our definition of business. So, hey, by the way, guys, he referenced a past lecture. Bam! Killing it. Okay, fantastic. All right, so let's keep going. That's the ascetic attitude. Now, then there is what we would call the indifferent attitude. And the indifferent attitude says, listen. This is business. It's just business, as the Godfather would say. You know, there's religion, which is over here, and then there's business, which is over here. They're two different things. We shouldn't really need to live both simultaneously. They're two practices. Now, in the movie The Godfather, and I believe it was the second Godfather, there's this really, really powerful scene in which Michael Corleone is attending the baptism of his son, and at the very same time, he's having his men go and do a hit on all these other families. Okay, so he's engaging in this horrible mob violence at the same time that he's attending the baptism of his son. And he sees nothing incongruent about this. It's just business, as the first Godfather would say. Well, now, I'll give you an example. Here in the U.S., we have a hotel, a whole bunch of hotels, and actually they're all over the world at this point. I apologize. Marriott hotels. You know Marriott hotels. Hugely successful and pretty darn good, actually. Well, they were started by John Willard Marriott Sr., that dude right there. Well, now, he belonged to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, okay? And they have pretty darn strict morals and codes and ethics when it comes to certain life practices, certain practices in life. Now, here's the thing, and he was a good, solid member of this religious branch, right? Well, here's the thing, though. When you go to a Marriott hotel, you can order a drink. Now, members of this church do not drink alcohol, and yet you can order alcohol at this hotel. You can drink coffee. Now, members of this religious group do not drink coffee, but you can order coffee. You can do commerce on Sunday. You can order a porno on your TV in your room. Now, trust me, anybody who's engaging in these activities as a member of the church, that is seriously, seriously frowned upon. But now, providing these things as a business so that you can be competitive in the marketplace, those are two different things, okay? You can't dig on me, says somebody who practices the indifferent model, for offering these services, because I need to offer these services to be competitive. But that doesn't mean I need to partake, right? So, where do we see this in our lives today? Well, how many of you consider yourself a peaceful person and would never consider stabbing or shooting or murdering or carjacking anybody? And yet you play video games that you stab and murder and shoot and steal cars and yada, yada, yada. Well, those are two different things, says the indifferent attitude. There's how I live my life as a moral, ethical, peaceful person. And then there's the games I play and the movies I watch. I watch the Avengers. I watch the Marvel movies. Oh my gosh, wall-to-wall violence. It's a fantastic, right? And yet, oh my gosh, and the John Wick movies, don't get me started on the John Wick movies. Are they the best or what? And yet, I would never, ever consider living that lifestyle. But those are two different things in my world. The movies I watch, the games I play, and the life that I live. That is an indifferent attitude. Do you espouse environmental issues? You believe in the environment, but you also eat food out of season or eat meat? Well, in fact, guys, if you eat food out of season, that means that you're eating food that was grown somewhere else and brought here through distribution channels, right? Which means that cost a lot of fuel and so on. Same way, if you eat meat, it takes far more calories to produce meat than the number of calories you get from that same said meat. Therefore, if you eat out of season or eat meat, you're not a friend to the environment in those respects. And the indifferent attitude would be, listen. I can still consider myself an environmentalist and give to these causes and do what I can and recycle and drive a hybrid. And at the same time, I can eat meat and bananas and be just fine. I can separate those two. Okay? So that is the indifferent attitude. Now, there is also the renunciation. Now, earlier I gave homeschooling as an example of ascetic, stay away. Well, it can also be applied to renunciation. By the way, Tristan said, going back to our communication series, an audience's religion is part of their psychographics. Very, very true. So based on business practice, the target audience may or may not may or may not want this. Okay, very good. So first of all, that's past reference. Awesome comment, reference to a past lecture. Yeah, our worldview is very much influenced, not determined, not decided, heavily influenced by the culture and the religion in which we grew up, right? So, Nabil off in Southeast Asia, right? This is an area where the Muslim religion, Islam is very strong. And so they have different attitudes and practices toward how you eat meat, where you eat meat. The Islam religion would listen to me talking about no drinking alcohol, and they'd be like, yeah, that actually makes sense. And on the other hand, if we had somebody online who is Hindi, okay? Well, they'd be saying, whoa, meat, as in beef, you don't eat beef, right? So yes, this is very much driven by it. Very good point. Timothy, yeah, products or services. I got that, totally. Timothy says, like stores being closed on Sunday due to religious beliefs. Yes, absolutely. Now, some stores will say, we're going to go ahead and close on Sunday because religious beliefs. So a local store here in Utah, for those of you who are outside of Utah, we have a furniture store called R.C. Willey. And R.C. Willey is closed on Sundays. Well, now, it used to be that here in Utah, just about every store was closed on Sunday due to religious practices. And yet, more and more stores have kind of started to say, religion and business are two different things. The indifferent, R.C. Willey is one of the holdouts. So, thumbs up from Nabil. Good. I like the endorsement. Thank you. And by the way, that counts as a comment and a contributor. Tristan, our restaurants have fish specials on Fridays for Catholics. Okay, we're getting, by the way, a couple of real-world examples there. Fish specials on Fridays for Catholics. And a lot of folks here in Utah might be, fish, Friday, Catholic, what? Great example. Okay, all right, serving their customers, very good. Okay, let's talk renunciation here. Renunciation. This is saying we think we can do it better. You know what? Yes, we need business. We need a strong economy. But what you have right here needs to be reformed. We disagree. Yeah, only in Lent. We disagree with how you're engaging in business, says this religious attitude. We disagree with where you're putting the emphasis on different syllables. Once again, my closed captioning folks will freak out now. Where you're putting the emphasis in terms of business. We think you're putting it too much on wealth accumulation and money accumulation, and not putting it enough on, say, the good of the people and the needs of the community. And so we're going to go ahead and practice business, but we're going to do it our own way. This is the renunciation. Now, an example, once again, I'm relying on examples that I'm familiar with here in the Western United States in terms of Utah. This church that I mentioned earlier, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they for a while put together something called the United Order. And the United Order was basically an entire economic system, a full economic system. It was actually very, very akin to socialism. Now, I know red flags just went up everywhere, but I got news for you guys. It was akin to socialism because the United Order saw to the needs of the community before the needs of the individual. That was why it was united and an order, right? And they even had their own money, right? They printed their own bills and so on and so forth. It did not last. However, a lot of things that it started did last. One of them was a store that went out of business only about 10 or 15 years ago called ZCMI, Zion Commercial Mercantile Intercorporation. I don't know, something like that. ZCMI, which actually, if you look at U.S. history, was the first department store in the country. So the idea of the department store actually came, yes, I said it, the idea of a department store came from the United Order and this experiment in economics. So this is where religion is saying, we can do it, and we can do it better. Well, now, where do we practice some of this stuff? Well, I'll tell you what. Do you use Uber instead of a taxi? Because Uber is a very disruptive technology. And by the way, a lot of the things that kind of go to renunciation are disruptive technologies. It's saying, yes, I know we have this whole taxi system in place. We can do it better. Have you ever stayed in an Airbnb instead of a hotel? That's where, yes, I understand we have 1 trillion hotel rooms in the world, but I don't want any of those. I want to stay in that Airbnb. That is saying we can do it better. Do you live at home with your parents rather than buying a home or renting an apartment? That's where you're saying, you know what? I reject the notion that I need to move out the moment I turn 18 on my birthday. I can be economically savvy, I can save, I can build a career and so forth by staying home. Now, the rest of the world in the economy says, oh, what do you mean you live in your mother's basement? Yeah, dang straight I do, and I'm working on an education and I'm saving my money and I'm building this business in the meantime. Some people do it out of a garage, I do it out of a basement. That's renunciation of what the old world order thinks you need to do. Do you do any kind of gig work or part-time income and so forth? So for example, renunciation for me, I don't use textbooks. No, I reject textbooks. Now, you need content, you need information, you need material, you need learning resources. But why does it need to be a $130 textbook that you only need for 4 months? I reject that. We can do it better, right? That's an example of renunciation, okay? Hey, I'll take that as an awesome comment. I like being the rebel. I work at it every time I can. Okay, last one. This is the quiet attitude. Now, in this one, this is where religion says, all right, listen. We got to have this industry. We totally understand we have to have the industry. We don't like it. We don't want it. We wish we didn't have to have it. But the fact of the matter is we do have to have it. So we're going to regulate it. We're just going to really make sure that it doesn't run amok, that it doesn't get out of hand, and that it is done in a way that is in keeping with the religious and moral and ethical values of the community. So once again, coming here to Utah, all of our liquor stores are owned by the state. And liquor here is highly regulated. Now, by the way, before you start thinking I'm about to dump on Utah's alcohol laws, our alcohol laws here in Utah, as far as the United States are concerned, are not anywhere near as weird as some other states and some other counties. There are states and counties in the United States that have the strangest alcohol laws. So, yes, I know we love to bash them here in Utah, but fact is, they're actually pretty manageable. Now, we're seeing this across the United States right now with marijuana, right? A lot of states have legalized marijuana. By the way, it's still illegal at the federal level. So kind of funny, right? States are legalizing it, but at the federal level, our central government here in the United States, it's still illegal. They've just kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, agreed to look the other way. But we highly regulate it. Each state regulates it in its own way. So what are some ways that we practice quiet? Well, does your family limit the amount of TV or gaming or internet time? When you were growing up, was there a limit to how much gaming or internet time you were given? That's an example of saying, hey, we know we need gaming and the internet in the home, but we're going to regulate it. Do you drive hybrid? Or, yeah, hey, how about if I spell that word correctly someday? Eclectic car. I think I meant electric car, right? That's in saying, I know I need a car. I totally need a car, but I don't want to pollute the environment, so I'm going to go electric or hybrid. Does your family hide the chocolate and cookies to be brought out only at certain times? It's kind of where a parent says, listen, I know we need chocolate and cookies in the house, but they're not going to be out for you to eat at any time willy-nilly. I'm going to hide them and we'll bring them out at dessert. By the way, my family used to do that. My wife's family all the time. So Aaron said, I lived in Texas for a while. There were some really strange and strict liquor laws. And that's Texas, dude, right? You would think Texas would be like way open. No. The Baptist influence, talking again about religion, the Baptist influence and the Protestant influence in Texas is very strong. Tristan says, do you want to focus on this discussion strictly on religion, or can we open? Yeah, totally to the bigger, broad view. Absolutely, Tristan. So very good question. And by the way, we had a real world example and awesome comment from Aaron as well. Here's the idea. We're trying to understand how business works today through the lens of yesterday. We focus on the business, on the religion. But as you see here, you can focus on your comments that were about to come up. You can look at your personal ethics, your personal morals, and so on and so forth. Animal testing as an example, or internet and TV. It can be based on anything. Think of a lot of real world examples. Well, that's about what we are going to do. That's what we're going to do right now. Now, I asked you earlier to put on your thinking caps, right, and plug those things in. because I want you to give me some examples of where you, not other people hypothetically. It's really easy to say, well, that person or this person. I want examples of where you practice some of these approaches toward business and so forth, or toward any other things, right? So let me give you a couple minutes and hold on. Where's my button? There's my button. And let's see what we come up with. Okay, let's come on back and see what we've got. So we've got a really good example here from Timothy. And by the way, I totally, let's see, 3, 4, totally have not been keeping up on contributors. So I'm going to take us up to 8 contributors. And now Timothy has a great real world example for us. In my business, I think we practice a little bit of indifference, okay? An example would be we have and will install water features, fountains, in yards, but we are a low water landscaping business. This is really good, right? This is a very good example. So I'm going to give that an awesome comment as well as the real world. Here's the thing. Yeah. It's really interesting when I go to Vegas. Las Vegas here in the United States, in the state of Nevada, they have water features all over the place. Water features all over the place. And yet it's a desert, right? Well, now Timothy's company says, listen, we're a low water use landscaping business, but if you want a fountain, I'll put in a fountain. My personal desire to reduce water does not necessarily mean I cannot meet the customer's need. That is an excellent example of indifferent. Let's see. So Tristan says, I refuse to consume music that has pessimistic lyrics. Very good. And by the way, there is our first 10, and we're getting up there, folks, right? So you know the drill. Send me an email that says 90410, and we'll go ahead and get you some participation credit. 90410. And Timothy put it in there. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Okay, so pessimistic lyrics. Absolutely. It's saying, hey, listen, I am going to be consuming all this, and I love music, and I want to have it, but I'm going to regulate it in my life. That's the example of quiet, right? Or can be an example of quiet. which is I am going to be careful of what kind of music I consume. And Tristan is also a music producer, so he's going to be careful in what kind of music he produces, right? Okay, so he won't be listening to WAP in his home. I totally get it. All right, so Aaron, indifference in that appointments will be scheduled with clients on Sunday as per the request, despite the prominence of a strong practicing Catholic presence where I live. Absolutely. That is a great example. We prefer not to work on Sunday, but we also want to meet the needs of our clients, ergo, indifference separation. Good, 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 good. We've got Mario Fantastic with a comment here. Back when I lived in Mexico, my grandparents had a grocery store for our town, and we would always close the store when it was time to eat, and we would also close the store on Sundays, okay? That is great, great example. Oh, wrong button. Hang on now. You're going to have to bear with me a moment as I get this back. All right. I'm sorry, folks. Those of you that have been around this block before know that if I have the wrong screen highlighted and I push a certain button, it dies on me. But I also know that we're probably still broadcasting. So we're going to pull this up. Okay. And here we are. Yeah, it happens all the time, man. I'll tell you what. So, hey, do me a favor, folks. Let me know if I'm still broadcasting. It says I am, but I want to make sure I am. So give me a thumbs up there or something. So, in terms of Mario's comment, right? And I'm trying to find that here. There it is. Yeah, that's saying, hey, we're going to continue to practice, but we're going to practice in our own way. Renunciation. Very nice. Okay. Yeah, look good. Looks like we're still there. Now, Mario, what I was trying to give you it was that bad boy right there. Okay. My motto for life, be happy when making others happy. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. WAP. I know, Daniel. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, hey, Daniel's with us. So once again, a second 10. You know what that means. Fantastic. By the way, just a quick story. So yeah, I know I'm an old man, right? But I like to stay hip to what's happening in music. And the very fact that I said hip shows you that I'm really old. So I'll go onto YouTube and so forth, and my wife and I will just at random pull up videos that are on the top 10, top 100, and so forth, just to see what's happening. And I, in fact, find a lot of artists that I really, really like because of this. This is how I discovered Billie Eilish. I really like Billie Eilish. This is how I discovered some others and so forth. Well, just at random, we pulled up Cardi B and WAP. I stayed on that video for about 15 seconds and then moved on with my life. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, all right. Okay, we're all set. Aaron, when I lived in Germany, almost all businesses were closed on Sundays as a holdover from the prominence of religious practices there. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to make sure I'm got the right thing set up there. Okay. And Mario is Mario's a new contributor. We totally got very good. And Joseph, yes, good. I totally agree. I would watch the whole thing, Mario. Oh, you watched the whole thing, man. Okay, well, then you're a stronger man than I. Okay. Excellent job. Excellent job. So, again, notice we didn't dump on religious practices or views or morals or ethics and so forth. They are strong in our lives right now. As Tristan pointed out, we have all grown up in religious environments. whether you are practicing a religion or not is pretty irrelevant. The fact that we grew up in these environments has given us these sensibilities. And so they continue on today, as we see here. But I'm telling you, next week, we're going to see some really interesting changes. Okay. So now, religion. Religion did say, hey, it's totally cool to earn money. All right. This is part of a setup for our lectures next week. Well, how is it okay to earn money and still be religiously, morally acceptable? Well, the first one was labor. Religion loved labor. Oh my gosh, they loved labor because labor was visible, it was tangible. We were creating something that had immediate material need and could fill a need right away. They totally got it. Nobody was dissing labor. They looked at trade and said, okay, and you know this because we talked Aristotle, right? Virtual fist bump. You know what Aristotle said. He's kind of like, listen. I know we need trade. So long as it's simple and meets some needs and helps to balance my abundance with your lacking and vice versa, I suppose we can trade and you can go ahead and make some money with it. But if money at all becomes the focus, then it's perilous to the soul. You guys all remember that. But then we had finance. And finance at the time, and this will change, was, if not immoral, it was sordid at best, and at worst, disreputable. The idea that you would make money, which remember they said doesn't exist, by trading money, which remember they said doesn't exist, and therefore raise yourself above others who are actually working for a living, that was considered very, very immoral. And by the way, still is. But we're going to come back to that, okay? But the point is, at this time, finance was seen as really, really immoral. But this is going to change, okay? So we'll take a look at that. That's like, yes, trading in the stock market. Exactly, which brings us, hey guys, this is the first time that we've made 3 tens. Good for you. Seriously, that's awesome. Okay, I'll take care of you when the time comes. Okay, so this is how we make money. Well, now, remember, trade is perilous to the soul. All right, we're reading this in setup for next week. But let's read this section from the reading. It is not disputed, of course, that trade is indispensable. The merchant supplements the deficiencies of one country with the abundance of another. Their profits, therefore, are legitimate, and they may include not only the livelihood appropriate for the trader's status, but payment of labor skills and so on and so forth. I want you to notice something. Trader's status. At this time, you could go ahead and trade. You could go ahead and be a retailer, but that was considered a low level of work. And you should not live a lifestyle that was greater than your status in the community. Now, recently, NPR's Planet Money, I believe it was, or it was The Indicator, which is part of Planet Money. They did this incredible piece about how the plague changed the world, and because we're going through this pandemic right now. Well, one of the things they talked about is that traders and people and laborers were making a whole lot money than they were before because everybody was dying off, and so the supply side of labor was a lot lower, so they could demand more wages. Well, they were living opulent lifestyles. In the system, the community did not like this. So it's cool to make money so long as you live within your station. We're going to see this change. Okay. Why is all this perilous to the soul? Well, here's the thing. Religion at the time saw saw business as really, really apt to being dishonest, let's say. They were concerned about truth and honesty and lying and so forth. So, hey, you know what, Tristan? It was great to have you. Great to have you. We'll see you around. So if you drop off, we totally get it. Thank you for your help. You helped us get some pretty high numbers, man. So let's look at lying. Let's look at definition. To offer a false statement made with deliberate intent to deceive and intentional untruth, a falsehood, intentionally conveying a false impression. Now, if I were to ask you, is lying bad? We'd all say, oh, yes, 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 of course. Mais bien sûr, c'est terrible. Lying is bad, all right? Well, now, what about bluffing? Okay? Now, bluffing is to deceive someone regarding one's abilities or intention. Okay? As Henry Taylor, a British statesman, said, falsehood ceases to become falsehood when it is understood on all sides that the truth is not expected to be spoken. I want you to just imagine how mind-blowing that is. Just let that wash over you. Think about it. A lie is not a lie if I expect you to lie. If I don't expect you to necessarily be forthcoming with the truth, then when you are not forthcoming with the truth, you are not acting unethically or immorally because this is an agreement. Now, let me give you an example of what Carr says. She's an ethicist, okay? I know this is long, but trust me, this is worth sticking around for, okay? Now, think about poker, right? In their office lives, business people cease to be private citizens. They become game players who must be guided by a somewhat different set of ethical standards. Poker's brand of ethics is different from the ethical ideals of civilized human relationships. The game calls for distrust of the other fellow. It ignores the claims of friendship. Cunning, deception by concealments of one's strengths and intentions, not kindness and open-hearted, are vital in poker. No one thinks any worse of the poker on that account, and no one should think any worse of the game of business because its standards of right or wrong differ from the prevailing traditions of morality in our society. This is why religion gets kind of wrapped around the axle. Because what this is basically saying is, okay, when you're out and about with your fellow man and we're obeying these morals and laws and values of civilized people, civilized human relationships, we should be honest. We should tell the truth. We should not be, hiding anything, right? But what Carr says here is, well, yeah, but business is different. Business is like poker. Everybody is expected to be dishonest. Everyone is expected to hide information, to hide their strengths, to hide their intentions. And because everybody is expected to do this, says the statesman, it's no longer immoral. Okay? Now, Timothy says that would be fine, except for those standards of right and wrong carry over in the individual life and outside the business. Bingo! This is why religion is generally distrustful of this, is because, okay, listen, if you clock in from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and from 8 to 5, you practice these loose rules of honesty, can you just flip a switch at 5 p.m. and, live according to a higher standard of honesty? Now, it's all well and good to look at this and go, oh, I never would. But think about it. Job interview? Yeah, you want to put forth your best effort. So Timothy, with your landscaping business, I am going to hypothesize. I am going to offer a conjecture. It may not be correct, but this is a quote from Tina Fey. You know, Tina Fey of Saturday Night Live and 30 Rock and all that sort of stuff. Okay, Timothy says, bring it on. When a client says, hey, can you do A, B, and C? And you say in your head, I can totally do A. I've done it 100 times. I've got B down. I'm fairly familiar with C. I don't know exactly how to do C, but I have a high level of confidence that by talking to the right people, trying the right things in my workshop, and doing some research, I can nail C. And so when the person says, can you do A, B, and C? You go, yeah, I can do that for you. We can make that happen. Because Tina Fey says, say yes, and then go figure out how to make yes happen. And instead of going through the whole rigmarole of explaining, I don't know how to do C, but I think I can do C. We'll figure out if I can do C. You just kind of say, yeah, I can do C. Now, I do this. So Timothy, I'm offering you as an example, but I should probably just plain offer me. When somebody says, can you lecture on this? I go, yeah, I can totally lecture on that. I'm going to go home and research the crap out of it, right? And fake it until you make it. Timothy, I am a believer in fake it till you make it. I truly am. Because I've got news for you, everyone. We're all faking it. We are all faking it. I have been on this earth for half a century. I have 35 years work experience in the corporate world. I've been teaching for 10 years. I have an MBA and a PhD, and I'm still faking it. It never ends. So yeah, I'm a fan of fake it till you make it. Daniel, yes, we can definitely do that as the manager after that. Yeah, totally, right? Yes. I love it. True story. Yeah, Nabil. Okay, I can relate to Tina Fey's quote. I do it when dealing with my clients as well. Yeah, Nabil, you're there with us, right? Absolutely. You know, you got to say, yeah, I can do it, but you got to have faith in your ability to pull it off. And you know what? You're smart. You're clever. You're experienced. You know how to get the information you need. So have that faith, have that confidence, tell them you can do it, and be like Tina Fey and go figure out how to do it. Absolutely. Okay. This is what it all comes down to for religion. This is what they're concerned about. This is what keeps them up at night at the end of the day, why they are throwing up all these roadblocks to religion. It's a question of avarice. Avarice, well, I just threw my mouse across the desk. Avarice meaning greed, right? Here's a quote from the reading. For it was the essence of trade to drag a position of solitary prominence, the acquisitive appetites, and toward those appetites. In other words, once you start to get a taste for money and wealth and power and influence, you are going to want more money, power, wealth, and influence. And as we're going to explore in this lecture series, you can never have enough. The profit motive says psychologically, we never really feel like we have enough. We always want more money, wealth, power, and influence. Now, by the way, I want to be totally clear about this. There's nothing wrong with wanting money, power, wealth, and influence. There's nothing wrong with that. It's why do you want it and for what purpose? That's where I feel the difference is. I want to have greater influence because with students and with those interested in these lectures and so forth, because I want you to be successful. I want you to be super successful, because the more successful you are, the more successful our community is, our countries, our world economics, and it is a flat world. Okay, we have folks from all over the world with us today. I want us all to be successful, because this is a teeny tiny little planet and we need to share it together. And I want to share it together in prosperity. And I believe that education opens our eyes and gives us the tools and perspective we need to be successful. So yeah, I totally want influence. I want influence because I want to live in a prosperous, happy, moral, ethical world. I think that's okay. I also want money because I want to buy a new light for my studio. A little less moral and ethical, right? Okay, so my friends, there you go. That is our setup. Mario says, paraphrasing, money doesn't change you. It makes you more of what you are. I like it. I like it. And I'm going to give that a past reference. I don't know what lecture or where you heard that from, but I really like it. So you're going to get credit for that. I like that. It makes you more of what you are. So yeah. Good food for thought. Excellent work, folks. Thank you very much. What I'm going to do, Aaron says it's like I said at the beginning, others want to control, influence us. Yes. We want to be autonomous beings in the world and be the masters of our own fate. Completely. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for bringing that up and reminding. Past lecture. This wraps things up. If you're just joining us, Nabil, and I know that Tristan already dropped off, and anybody else, this is kind of the end of our lecture. What I'm going to do now is I am going to pull up the reading for my students so that they have an idea of what to look at for next week, okay? And if you're at all curious, just so you know, I'm going to come here to monitor, and we'll pull this up. You know, I need to learn to have this ready before, right? I need to learn to have this ready before so that we don't have to wait for this. And it's going to say, are you really who you are? And I'm going to say, yeah, last I checked, I'm really who I am. Of course, I'm easily fooled. Let's go ahead and take a look at next week and what you want to focus on. Modules. Come over here to modules. And we're going to come down here to module 5, right? Business revolution, Protestant work ethic. Okay. This is where it gets exciting. Oh my gosh, this is where it gets exciting. I know I geek out every single time, but this is going to be awesome. All right. I'm going to let's do this one first. All right. So, economic revolution. Let's see here. Cast whip. All right. Let me do a quick word search. I'm going to find, and let's see here. What's force? Is it force? Is that in there? Let's see. Cast whip, 5-year plan. Yes, that's the one. Okay. Centralized monarchies. I apologize. Don't worry, the next one will be easier. Okay. All right, here we go. What I really want you to focus on in this one is this first section here. This first section here, the economic revolution. All right. And really, here's what as you read this section here, I want you to really embrace the idea that we are making a huge shift now from the way our society and the community and the government worked before, with business intermingling in that, to how society and the community and the government works after, with business a much bigger part. What we are going to find is that the influence of, it used to be that religion, I want to make sure here, I'll even come up, I'll do this bad boy right here. Religion's power and influences here, business influence here. We're about to see this. We are about to see this. And so as you take a look at this, look for those sort of shifts. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And then read this section, turn back to England and France, and really get into this idea of profit motive. This is one of the most important things you can understand and come away with when it comes to this reading. We've already mentioned the profit motive several times. It's really important that you get that one set. So make sure that you have a really good understanding of the profit motive. Okay? And then, in the same section, it's really important right in here. Oh, hold on. And then this section right here, you want to understand this idea of land, labor, and capital. Now, we're going to kind of blow our minds a little bit with the idea of abstract land, abstract labor, abstract capital. You know what land is, you know what labor is, you know what capital is. But abstract, this is where things really, really, really shift. So, in fact, with our first lecture next week, you might want to take some LSD before it, because we are going to totally blow our minds with some really abstract philosophy. So you do those sections and you are in good shape, okay, for that reading. Now, if we come back, when it comes to the Protestant work ethic, I know you're going to kill me. Read this whole thing. It is so good. It is so good. There are going to be a few times. Hey, Nabil, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much. And if you leave me a comment or something, I can send you some materials if you're interested in learning more about this. So if you leave a comment when I post the video, I can send you some stuff. So thanks for joining us. Everyone, there will be very few times that I say read the whole thing. Because your time is precious, your effort is precious, and I want to respect that. But this one, whether you realize it or not, you live your life by this reading. And so I really want to explore this one. So it's not heinously long. I know that looked like a fast scroll and so forth, but trust me, it flows really well and it flows really fast. And it is going to be fantastic. Hey, Daniel, we'll see you later. Okay, so that is where we are for next week. You do those things and you're going to be in great shape. So once again, thank you very much. As per usual, I'll stick around in the comments section if you have any questions or anything. But otherwise, you are all set. Great work today. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one.